Hello, GotAUkulele.com back with an instrument review, and this one, unlike anything I've ever reviewed before, as you will see. Before I give that away, ukulele t-shirt time, Southern Ukulele Store. If you're in the UK, you'll know this place. If you don't know this place, this is one of my top tips for where to buy a ukulele from. Really good service. There we go. This one. It's called the Nano ukulele. Yeah, that is not a toy. That is an actual ukulele. It's called the Nano, made by a guy called Andy Miles in Berkshire, Lothian, in the UK. He makes some other scales as well, but this is his small one, the Nano. Interesting, huh? Let's just put that in perspective. This is a John Daniel Sopranino, so it's smaller than a soprano. This is the Nano, so quite a bit smaller. This here is an Ohana SK14 standard soprano scale ukulele. This is the Nano. I mean, it's as big as the body, the whole thing. It's about 26 centimeters long. And, you know, some people were saying, oh, that's a nice novelty. Oh, I'd stick that on my desk. And he actually makes these as if they're real instruments in the same way. It's the same construction. And he makes them to be playable. I'll come on to that because I've been dreading doing this review because my playing is just not actually that good, but let's get into it. We've got a solid bodied instrument here made from mahogany, single piece top, single piece back, two piece sides, and it's made like a regular ukulele. That's all solid mahogany, finished in Danish oil and French polish. It looks really classy. It's really well made, no issues with it at all, and it looks like a kind of old vintage Martin. It's really rather remarkable. That bridge is made of mahogany with an ebony saddle. I suppose that's one of my only gripes with it. As you can see there, this is called a through bridge. So those strings don't go into slots and they don't tie on, probably because there isn't enough space here. Maybe he was concerned about the bridge not having strength. What you have to do is you push the strings through the hole with tweezers. You pull them out the sound hole, tie a knot, and then pull them back. You see that occasionally on full-scale ukuleles. It's fiddly at the best of times. It's going to be even fiddlier on this. I mentioned that once the strings are on, I suppose you don't worry about it. Looking inside, really neat and tidy, unnotched kerfing, not a lot of bracing, but I don't think you need a lot of bracing. There's not a lot to it. Up to the neck, single piece mahogany, really nice grain as well coming through on that one, and that's topped with a walnut fingerboard. It's really nicely done, nicely shaped. At the end here, the edges are kind of rolled off as well, so it's dead comfortable, and it's wider than you'd expect for a ukulele of this scale. The Ohana O Nino is about 33 mil across. This is 30 mil across, so it's not actually that much different. It's got 12 nickel silver frets, standard for a soprano scale, so some playability there. Position markers at 5, 7 and 10, and they are repeated on the side. He's got everything covered. You may also notice as well a 13th fret up here. This isn't playable, it's called a 0 fret, and that holds the intonation correctly up at the nut end. So you've got an ebony nut here which is purely for the spacing of the strings, and that 0 nut, it passes over first and it holds the strings at the right height. Intonation on a short scale instrument like this is going to be even more important, so I'm glad he's put that there. Really like the neck and the fingerboard. Up to the headstock, pretty plain. Andy used to make these with Martin 3-pointed crown-shaped headstocks. I really like that grain, by the way. I prefer this. I prefer it just because, you know, it's not too shouty and ostentatious. Tuning, friction pegs, what else? They'd have to be. Nothing else would fit on here. They're unbranded and pretty cheap. But, you know, I don't expect you'd be able to find branded ones that would actually fit because there isn't a lot of space up there. Finishing that, he's fitted it with his own blend of fluorocarbon strings. It's actually fishing line. It's Barclay Trilene between 30 and 60 pound test, and he suggests tuning this up to an octave above regular soprano, so GCEA, same chord shapes but higher by 1 octave. They look just like Worth clears to me. That's probably because it's exactly the same material. All of that comes in £150. Some people will balk because some people think that £50 is a lot of money to spend on a ukulele. It clearly isn't. But this is handmade. This isn't a toy. This isn't coming from a Chinese factory where they pay their workers a pittance. This is handmade by a guy in a workshop out of wood with his own hands to order. For a luthier instrument, £150 is not a lot of money at all, so it's actually pretty good value for what it is. But there we are. I think it's rather wonderful, and I don't want this to go back. I'm now going to get on to the bit that I was really dreading, and that's the playing of it. Because, as I say, Andy makes these to be playable. And if you have a look in the written review in the link below, you'll see a video I've included of Ben Rouse from the Ukulele Orchestra of Great Britain playing one, and clearly can play it. I'm not that good. I'm really not that good, and I've struggled. It's got a wide nut, but I've got big fingers, and I struggle to get it to play. But I think that says more about me than it does about the instrument, because clearly it can be played in the right hands. So I think if you want to get it to play, you're going to have to work at it. But there's nothing wrong with working at things. I don't know what it is with this ukulele must be easy brigade. You get reward from actually working at things. I just haven't had the time to work at it. Sound-wise, the volume isn't massive, but then how is it going to be? It's a small body. Sustain isn't massive either. It's a short scale. So it's not going to fit into a mix in a ukulele club because you're just not going to get heard. I've got this volume up quite a bit on the microphone, so you're going to hear it, but it's not the loud instrument. But it's tiny. But it does play, and the intonation is pretty decent, and the sustain is actually a bit better than I thought it would be. So I'm going to make a complete pig's ear of this now and try and give you a sense, but I think you're probably better looking at the Ben Rouse video in the written review. And I've got to try and move around because trying to find the right way to hold this is a bit of a difficulty. So you can tell it's a high pitch. So I'm going all over the place. Let's try the finger picking. You can tell it plays. The notes probably needs tuning as well. The notes play. But big hands, I'm really struggling with it. Given some time, I reckon I'd be able to get something out of it, and I think that would be a huge laugh trying to do. And certainly grabbing one of these out when you're with your friends and say, here, what do you think about this? And running through a simple song. Would be a lot of fun. Andy Miles, Nano Ukulele. I like it. It's not going to be for everyone. It's tiny. It's a talking point. I don't want to call it a novelty because it's not. It's certainly not a toy because it's not made as one. But I can see why a lot of people would want one of these in the collection just because it is what it is. I mean, Andy Miles, Nano. Keep an eye on GotAUkulele. More reviews coming soon. Probably going to be a bit bigger than this one, though. See you again.